What's going on, everyone? So, yesterday, Kendrick Perkins came out and said that a superstar was on the way for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, look, it's Kendrick Perkins, so, take it with a grain of salt. However, I mean, he does have connections with players and stuff. He said, I'm not going to reveal the player's name. I'll leave that basically for Woj and stuff. And it's got everybody kind of brewing. Like, who could it be? And based on what Kendrick said, again, assuming that Kendrick Perkins is even semi-accurate, the only person, based on what he said, that would benefit Anthony Davis would be Trae Young out of all the names that are out there that could kind of force their way, right? Because you got to keep in mind, Lakers are limited on assets. So the only guys realistically the Lakers could go after would be Donovan Mitchell and Trae Young. And the reason for that is because of their contracts, right? Both guys would basically have to force themselves to the Lakers, because if any of them are kind of like open for, hey, we'll take whatever, then that kind of just creates a bidding war, and now the Lakers fall flat. Donovan Mitchell, he has next year on his contract, but then he can terminate his contract and go and become a free agent wherever he wants. So if he's like, hey, the Knicks, probably out of the running for me. Do I really want to go to Brooklyn? Probably not. But man, I would love to go to the Lakers. I don't know if that would happen, but if that does and he kind of tries to force his way there, then that could cause teams to kind of back off and go, okay, we're not gonna push our chips to the table for Donovan Mitchell because it could be a 1-year rental and we're gonna have to sell the farm to get him. The other person is Trae Young. Now, Trae, has one extra year before he has the early termination thing. So he has $40 million this year. Next year, he's under contract for $43 million, and then the following year, $45 million, and then he has the early termination option. So you're talking about Trae Young, and the reason why I think if Trae Young basically said, get me out of here, I want to go to the Lakers, then I think he'll land with the Lakers. I mean, there have been reports that he wants to go to the Lakers for like years now. There was like a year and a half, 2 years ago, there was a report that Trae Young wanted out of Atlanta and wanted to go to the Lakers. So if anyone was going to do it, I think it would be him. I think he would kind of try to push himself. Also with what Kendrick Perkins said about how, hey, this player is going to be really beneficial for the Lakers. Trae Young makes the most sense in that regard. Now, maybe a team would be more willing to go and trade for Trae Young, but here's the thing. Like, which team, let's say again, Trae Young pushes his way to the Lakers, right? I don't personally see a Donovan Mitchell situation where he was trying to like push himself to the Knicks, or like a Damian Lillard situation where he's trying to push himself to Miami, because one, he has fewer years than that, but also if Donovan Mitchell leaves, then teams definitely not going to want to do that with Trae Young. But also, Donovan Mitchell and Trae Young are very different, right? Like, Trae Young is a guy that's like, he's extremely high usage, heavy on ball. How many teams need somebody like Trae Young? How many teams are looking at it and going, okay, let's give up all of our assets. Trae Young is the deciding factor, and we got 2 years to win a championship or he's out of here, right? This isn't Kawhi Leonard with Toronto or anything like that. I don't see teams pushing their chips for Trae Young. To be honest, I'm not like super sold on the Lakers doing that either, because Trae Young is, don't get me wrong, incredible talent, right? Trae Young is a guy that he leads the league in assists. Talk about a guy that is legit, 30 and 12. He can be very impactful, but he's also heavy on ball. Not only is he heavy on ball, he is very turnover prone. He's up there in league leaders in turnovers. And yes, like this year, for example, 27 points, 11 assists, 3 rebounds, but he's a defensive liability. He's not as good of a shooter as he gets advertised. This season on 9 attempts, he's averaging 37%. It's pretty good. Like, it's not great or elite, but that's pretty good, right? But he's had years, like look at last year with Atlanta. He averaged 33.5%. The year before that, 38%. That's great. But then the year before that, he was 34%. He's a career 35.5% three-point shooter, which is basically league average. So he's basically league average in that regard. Now he is close to a 50% in 2-point range, EFG of 50%, which is good, free throw shooting, all that stuff. I'm not trying to take away from the player he is. I think he's an excellent player. And, Trae Young with Anthony Davis, because Trae is only 25. So you have him and Anthony Davis for the long haul. Trae Young, he would very likely sign a new contract. So I get the allure. And there was even a report per The Athletic and Shams who said that the Lakers are envisioning pairing Trae Young with Anthony Davis, and that's kind of what they want to do. That's kind of the goal going into the offseason, which could be a real possibility, right? And I don't hate, like, if it happens, I'm going to be stoked. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be pumped. But it's not something I'm like, yes, that's what we need, right? LeBron James and Anthony Davis, we'll see how long LeBron James is with the Lakers. I don't believe he's leaving in the offseason. I mean, there have been tons of reports that are coming out now that LeBron has said that he's committed long-term to the Lakers and all that stuff. He's not leaving. He has another kid that's about to go to USC and Bryce. He's going to wait. His family wanted to be in LA. He wanted to be in LA. His other kid, yes, very well might get drafted. I believe he'll get drafted in Bronny, simply in the fact that, like, even in the second round, some team will be like, okay, let's just take him, because if we take him, LeBron comes, that's like $100 million. Some owner is going to be like, dude, the money, I don't care about the picks. Or you get some team like Oklahoma City who's like, we have like 34 first round picks over the next like 5 years, right? Like, let's just, we have like the 27th pick in this year's draft. Just take Bronny, and maybe Bron comes in a year or two, right? And see how that looks. That is something that could be a possibility. LeBron's not leaving anytime soon. So let's assume LeBron's here for at least another year, maybe 2 years, right? Does LeBron James, Anthony Davis and Trae Young, does that bring the Lakers closer to a championship? If it works, yes, right? Because they would have a go-to scorer. They'd have a guy that can make plays, right? When LeBron goes to the bench, he doesn't have to worry as much, right? Because you can trust, hey, Trae's going to handle business. Him and Anthony Davis would be lethal in that pick and roll. You have guys like Jared Vanderbilt, which you could at that point start, and it wouldn't be a liability, because Trae Young, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, those three combined could give you like 100 a game, right? So you're not even worried about like, oh, well, Jared Vanderbilt isn't a great offensive player. Now, ideally, I'd love to pair a legit 3-and-D guy next to Trae, 3-and-D guy, Vanderbilt, LeBron, and AD. Royce O'Neal is just a name that comes to mind, but somebody like that, right? Somebody that is a legit 3-and-D style that can, play both sides of the ball, even if they're not like elite, even if they're just kind of like, mid type guy. Like, I wouldn't even mind like a Torrey Craig or something, where he's like, he's not elite. He's kind of more of a bench guy, but he is a legit 3-and-D guy, and he actually was very good defensively this past season. So it's like something like that, where it's like, okay, now you kind of can make up defensively for what Trae Young doesn't provide. My big concern is just fit, right? Trae Young is, again, one of the highest usage players in the league. He's one of the highest usage players ever. And you're playing alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I don't think he's going to be able to dominate the ball as much as he's accustomed to. Now, that doesn't mean post LeBron he can, but while LeBron's there, now, yes, LeBron's been more willing to play off ball, and maybe he'd even be further with Trae Young. However, I think Trae Young's going to have to take a big, significant step back, which he might, right? It's one thing when you're playing alongside like DeJounte Murray, where you're like, okay, I'm better than DeJounte. I trust myself more than DeJounte, right? Like, who has Trae ever played around that's even close to him, or at least his perception of him, right? Playing alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you're talking two guys that he knows, okay, these guys are better than me, right? These are two guys that I got to do a better job of deferring and playing off ball and whatnot. So, yes, I don't want to just write it off immediately, but there's definitely concerns about fit there, right? But you've seen LeBron be more willing, like with D'Angelo Russell, and just kind of letting D'Lo play on ball and do his thing. and LeBron just kind of picks and chooses. Next year, he'll be 40, so I imagine it'd be even further. So I do think it could work. My other real concern, at least with Trae Young, is he is one of those guys that, like, when he's on, it's magic, right? This guy single-handedly could go win you a game, right? You watch some of the games, and he's just like, guy can't miss down the stretch. He's hitting all these big shots. He's just absolutely incredible. But then you see games, and he's just like, dude, can you please stop shooting the basketball? You're shooting your team out of the game, right? So that's it. To me, it's just kind of like, which Trae Young do you get, right? I definitely have concerns in that regard. But also in the playoffs, Trae Young, one thing about Trae that you can say over many stars in this league is at least he's led a team to a conference finals, right? And he didn't have anybody as talented as Anthony Davis by his side. Now, granted, it was the Eastern Conference. Granted, a couple things kind of fell his way, but still, nonetheless, he got to the conference finals. And, even at times look like, hey, maybe they are going to pull this off and go to the finals. And in the postseason, he's been good. He has good postseason stats. He's not some guy that's just like trash in the postseason. Like you see some guys that are like really good in the regular season and then terrible in the postseason. He has had one bad postseason run, 2021, 2022. He played 5 games in that series, shot 32% from the field on 13.8 attempts, and only averaged 15 a game. But the year before that, in 2020, 2021, he was 29 points per game, 10 assists, 1.3 steals. And then in 2022 and 2023, he was 29 points, 10.2 assists, almost 2 steals, and 4 rebounds. So he has had, again, good playoff numbers. So it just depends. And that title run is the one, or not the title run, the conference finals run is the one where he averaged 28 and 10. So this is a guy that can show up and will show up in the postseason. It's just, again, like, is he the best course of action, right? I guess if there's nothing else that's out there, sure, go after him. Personally, I'd prefer Donovan Mitchell over Trae Young. But Trae Young gives you that, like, foundation piece even beyond Anthony Davis, really, right? Because when Anthony Davis's contract expires, Trae Young would still only be like 29 or 30. So, you have bare minimum, right? Let's say you're trading Reeves, Rui, 3 firsts, 2 pick swaps, right? Let's call it something like that, or 3 pick swaps, whatever. Let's say you're selling the farm. You'd also have to throw in like a Gabe Vincent just to match salaries. So let's say Gabe, right? Maybe you're even working out a sign and trade with D'Lo. I don't know, but let's say let's just keep it simple. Let's say you do, let's say D'Lo opts in. You do D'Lo, Rui, Reeves, and a 3 firsts, 2 pick swaps. Because at that point, D'Lo would also be an expiring contract. So pretty sure Atlanta might be more willing to take him on and kind of see how that works for at least a season. So then bare minimum, you have Trae Young, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Jared Vanderbilt, Max Christie, and Gabe Vincent. So there's at least 6 players there. Can you convince Spencer Dinwiddie to stay? I don't really know how much money you'd have at that point, right? It just depends on how everything kind of falls into place. But you could very well still maintain and be 6, 7, 8 guys deep. Also, Lakers, there's always going to be a player or two that'll take a minimum contract or take less money to go to the Lakers to try to, like, get a bigger contract elsewhere. We've seen that basically every year, the last like handful of years with the Lakers. So I'm not worried about them filling out the roster and adding the depth, but it's just, how does it fit? What does it look like? But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? You like the idea of Trae Young on the Lakers? Do you think no? Lakers stay away from him? Do you think it'll happen? Do you think that's who meant to be? I just think Kendrick Perkins mentions somebody, doesn't give a name, and then all of a sudden there's all these reports about it being Trae Young. I don't think that that's a coincidence, but that's just me. Again, love to hear your thoughts and opinions, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.